Hello and welcome back to another Q&A. The question that was asked to me is, what is the best 30 caliber cartridge for hunting deer in Australia? And that's a fucking good question because there's a couple out there. Now, I'm not going to go into all the fucking stupid, weirdo fucking 30 caliber rounds. I'm just going to stick with the normal ones. And you can see them on the screen here. We have 300 Blackout, 7.62 by 39, 30-30 Winchester, 308 Winchester, 303 British, 30-06 Springfield, and 300 Win Mag. It's 30 caliber, so that's what I'm sticking to. Some fuckwit is going to put in the comments, oh, why didn't you put in 270? And of course there's going to be some fucking idiot who's going to say, where's the 6.5 man button? It's not 30 caliber, so I'm not including it in a 30 caliber video. I might get to them later, but this is just talking about 30 cal. Now, generally speaking, people don't use 300 Blackout or 7.62 by 39 for hunting deer. Generally. There are a couple out there that I know, but generally people don't really talk about those two rounds being used for hunting deer. Now, when we talk about hunting deer, a lot of people, over caliber their things, and, I've actually been at a gun shop when some fucking idiot was saying, oh, you need a minimum 300 Win Mag to hunt deer. And I was like, well, you clearly don't. So when we're talking about what round is required to kill what, usually it boils down to energy, and that's calculated in joules. Yanks usually do it in foot-pounds. Now, there is another whole different scale for talking about, the joule, so the velocity and the joules, well, the velocity and the mass of the projectile calculated into joules, and then also the type of projectile and all that sort of shit. I believe it's called the Taylor's fucking graph or whatever the fuck it is. I'm not going to go that far into it because it's going to go straight over the top of most people's heads anyway. So we're just going to talk about joules, which is calculated, as I just said before, by velocity and projectile mass, giving you an amount of energy when it hits the target. Now, there's no real thing online about, and we're going to talk about Sambar deer here because it's the main fucking thing we're going to hunt. And if you can kill a Sambar deer with something, then you can definitely kill a smaller deer. There's nothing online you can really find of like how many joules you need to kill a Sambar deer, but that we do have it for white-tailed deer and for elk, and we all know that Sambar deer sits somewhere between the two. Now, the Yanks reckon that you need somewhere around 1,000 to 1,100 joules of energy to kill a whitetail, and about 2,000 joules or 1,500 foot-pounds to kill an elk. And what we're talking about joules of energy is the energy needed usually to punch through the shoulder blade, which usually sits over the vitals. That's the thing we're really talking about because, if you just get a fucking elk's heart, you can literally stab it with a pen and the cunt will die. So it's not got anything to do with penetrating through the flesh, it's got to do with penetrating through the bone. Now, there is people out there who purposely shoot at shoulder blades and shoot at the top ball joints of legs so that the animal can't run away. And that's a fairly good method, but obviously you need something very high-powered to do that. Which is the same reason why you can hunt a deer with a fucking bow, which has a hell of a lot less energy than a bullet, and you'll still get the desired effect. So I think people get all wrapped up a little bit too much in, the bigger the caliber, the fucking better it is, but also, you're losing a lot of meat doing that as well. Anyway, that's a big fucking spiel of what I'm generally going to be talking about in this video. Now, I thought I'd add 300 Blackout and 7.62 by 39 because it's generally not really talked about when we talk about hunting deer in Australia. A lot of people will use them for like a pig hunting round. But if you ask any Sambar deer hunter, they would probably scoff at you and go, oh, no, that's too small. So, we're going to go through the joules of these rounds from 100 metres out to 300 metres. I'm not going to go beyond 300 metres because I personally am not a cross-gully bandit. I know some of you are, and that's all well and good. If you're shooting out past 300 metres, fucking good on you. That's when you should really start looking into the joules of energy at different ranges and see what you can actually come up with. So we're only going out to 300 metres for this comparison. So as stated before, whitetail is about 1,100, elk is about 2,000. We know that Sambar deer is somewhere in between, so we're just going to say that, 1,500, roughly 1,500 joules is going to be enough power to punch through the shoulder blade of a sambar deer and give you a kill. So that's the rough number we're going off. For our comparison as well, what I've done is I've calculated the comparisons all off firing a 150 grain bullet. Now, I know a lot of you who know a little bit about ballistics are going to be going, oh, but you can fire 220s out of a 30-06 and fucking, throw in a Win Mag and put out 1 billion grains. Obviously, that's the benefit of having a bigger cartridge is you can push out a bigger projectile with the same velocity. That's why a lot of people go with 300 Win Mag and 30-06. But for this comparison, we're pushing the same projectile, so we've picked 150 grain for all the projectiles. We've done our calculations. Although some you can't find the data for, the same bullet. So a lot of them are going to be soft point boat tails, except for the 30-30 Winchester. That one's going to be a hollow point for this calculation. All done on the same ballistics calculator. It depends on which calculator you use is what you're going to get out of it. You can punch the same numbers into one ballistics calculator and put it into a different one, and it's going to give you completely different fucking scores, but they're all generally roughly around the same area. So with all of that dialogue done, let's actually jump into what we're doing here. So the first round is going to be 300 blackout. At 100 metres, we're pushing out 1700 joules, which is obviously well and truly enough to kill a sambar. At 200 metres, we're pushing out 1278 joules, which we've now dropped below what we're classifying as being a good humane kill at 1500 joules. And then at 300 metres, we've dipped all the way down to 950 joules. Comparatively, 7.62 by 39 is actually a little bit higher here, and that's due to the size of the cart case and velocity. I've just noticed that I have to fix my picture here because I've got 300 blackout and 7.62 by 39 mixed. We'll be back in 3 seconds. All right, and we're back. Fixed that picture. I just fucking noticed that because I thought it looked a little bit funny there. So 7.62 by 39 is going to punch out a little bit faster because the cart case is slightly bigger than 300 blackout. If you don't know what 300 blackout is, it's a 5.56 cart case necked up to 300 or up to 30 cal, whereas 7.62 by 39 is actually a dedicated intermediate cartridge, putting out a bit more power there. So 7.62 by 39 at 100 metres is punching out 1889 joules, 200 metres 1390 joules, and then 300 metres, 1,000 joules. So both of those cartridges are both at 100 metres, putting out enough joules to kill a sambar. Past that, they're pretty, they're dipping down there and they're getting pretty useless. So not to say you can't kill them with those two cartridges, just means you can't get a humane kill and you run the risk of, not claiming your kill. Which I'm sure if you want to shoot an animal, you want to actually take the animal. Otherwise, you wouldn't fucking shoot it in the first place. All right, the next round, which arguably has taken more deer in its existence than any other fucking round in the world, 30-30 Winchester. Has been around for a very, very long time. It's been around since the 1870s, I believe, 1870s, 1880s, about that. It's been around for a long time. We're talking 150 years of use of this cartridge. At 100 metres, we're pushing at 1800, so it's comparatively in between 300 blackout and 7.62 by 39. And then when we get to 200 metres, it's dipping down there to 1200, and then at 300 metres, 829. So it's actually less than 300 blackout once it gets to 200 metres. And I know a lot of people that hunt deer with a 30-30 Winchester. I'm one of them. But generally, when you hunt with a 30-30 Winchester, you know that you're only taking shots at under 100. And you see something past that, you're not going to take a shot. So any of these first 3 rounds, yes, you can kill a sambar deer with them, but you need to use them appropriately. And if you're going to be doing that, then hunt at the range that the round is capable of doing the killing. All right, then we're going to step up to what is probably classified as common sambar deer calibers or common sambar deer cartridges in the 30 caliber range. The first one being 308 Winchester. Now, a little bit of history there. If you don't know what 308 Winchester is or where it comes from, take the 3006 Springfield, which came out in 1906, hence the name. They took that and they realised that it had a bit too much power. It was using a lot more propellant that it needed to do what it needed to do. They took that, they engineered it into the 308 Winchester. 308 Winchester is the child cartridge of the 3006. It's literally the same thing, shortened with different types of propellant. So back in the day, the propellants were a little bit different. After World War II, they became aware of doing new propellants, shorter cartridge, new propellant, essentially putting out very, very similar amounts of energy and the similar amounts of range, which is why NATO adopted it over 3006 in the trials in the 1950s. So there you go. All right, at 100 metres, 308 is putting out 3,070 joules. That's a fucking big jump. When you take 30-30 and then you go to 308, that's a massive jump from 1,800 joules to 3,000 joules. Massive jump there. And comparatively, as you can see on the screen there, because these are all in scale, not that much bigger of a cartridge. Really, if you look at the cart case is actually shorter, but overall length, slightly longer. So you're not really, weight-wise and size-wise, there's not really that much difference, which is one of the main benefits of 308. That's why, obviously, NATO used 308 to become 762 by 51 NATO. And then, so at 200 metres, 308 is going 2,500, well, 2,558 joules. That's very significant considering we've already established that we only need 1,500 to kill a Sambar. So 200 metres is good. At 300 metres, we're still pushing out 2,114 joules. So even at 300 metres, 308 is still good. From the calculations I've done, 308 Winchester is still good to kill a Sambar deer out to 500 metres. Now, if you're shooting, and this has happened, it's popped up on YouTube before, but if you're shooting Sambar deer past 500 metres, then fucking good on you, and you're probably not going to be using a 308. Most people can't even hit a target at 500 metres, so why they would even consider, I need a bigger calibre to be able to reach out further when they can't even shoot that far accurately is fucking beyond me. And I love telling the story about the dude at the rifle range who had a 3.75 H&H Blazer and he couldn't hit a target at 300 metres in a fucking 11-inch gong. Yeah? So, there are people out there who their guns are more accurate than they are, and that's the case with, sadly, 99% of hunters out there. Back in 1 second, I need to refill my beer. All right, so we're back. So that's 308 ticked off. Probably one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about 308 is I hunt with a 308, so I'm a little bit biased towards it because I think it's a fucking excellent round, but the numbers really do speak for themselves. Now, there are a lot of people out there like 308 is not good enough to do what you need to do, but if you put the fucking round where it needs to go, I guarantee you will kill a deer with 308. It's just the way it is, and the maths doesn't lie. All right, let's step up again to 303 British, and by step up, I mean step back. 303 British in overall size of cartridge is a lot bigger, and a lot of people, revere 303 British as being a very good hunting round. Hits hard. It's it's very good, and we've all grown up hearing stories about World War II. And my grandfather told me an excellent story of World War II when he was at El Alamein. They reckon, is this bullshit or is this not? They reckon they were 3 miles from the German line and they were hitting Germans and killing them at 3 miles with their 303s. I'd like to think that's true because my grandfather told me that, but, it's a fucking long way with iron sights, I'll tell you that much. Anywho, 303 British has always been revered as a very good round. Especially if you're like an old school hipster and you shoot 303-25. A lot of old school dudes love that round. Neither here nor there. 303 British. At 100 metres, we're pushing out 2,630 joules. At 200 metres, 2,100 joules. And at 300 metres, 1,650 joules. So we are definitely hitting a lot lower than 308, but we are hitting higher than 30-30. So realistically, in my chart here, they should be flipped. Let's move on again to 3006, which if you ask anyone in Australia and probably America as well. This is probably where most Australians have got their knowledge from. What's the best and most versatile hunting round? They're going to give you 30.06. Now, here's the numbers. 30.06 at 100 metres is pushing out 3,185 joules, which is only 115 joules more than 308. 115 joules isn't much. It's hitting about the same, really. Like, let's be real here. 200 metres, 308 was hitting at 25.50, and 30.06 is hitting at 26.40. So we're only, 90 joules more. At 300 metres, 308 was hitting at 21.15 joules, and 30.06 is hitting at 21.73 joules. So we're within 100 joules there as well. So there you have it. The numbers don't lie. But here's the caveat before all the 30.06 fanboys jump down my neck. The benefit of 30.06 and the benefit of having a bigger cartridge and a long action rifle and all that sort of shit is you can punch out bigger projectiles. And generally with 308 you don't go above about 180 grains, but with 30.06, yes, you can punch out like 220s and shit like that, which is going to give you more joules. Velocity versus weight gives you joules. So the heavier the bullet, the more joules you're going to get. If it is traveling the same speed, I'm not going to go fully into fucking nerd ballistics about this, but just by increasing the weight is not going to increase your joules that much. It will a little bit, but not heaps. You get joules out of velocity. So you could have a smaller pill with a higher velocity and you'll get more joules out of it than if you had a bigger projectile and a lower velocity. That's just the way it fucking is. If they're both firing 150 grains, 308 and 30.06 are relatively the same, but you get more recoil out of a 30.06. So that's probably why 308 is very popular, and that's the exact reason why 308 was picked over 30.06 in the NATO trials to be the NATO standard 7.62 round. History, there you go. All right, and we're now going to move on to the big daddy of 30 cal, 300 Win Mag, which is the round that pretty much every hunter, if you ask them in Australia, if you ask a hunter, what 30 cal bullet should I buy for deer hunting, most of them are going to say 300 Win Mag. And don't get me wrong, 300 Win Mag is an excellent round. I've fired a lot of 300 Win Mag in my time, but I believe it's a little bit overkill unless you're stretching your legs out. Like if you're shooting plus 300, then fuck yeah, go 300 Win Mag. But most people are not shooting above 300 metres. A lot of people are doing stalking where they're, generally stalking, your average engagement distance is between 20 metres and fucking maybe 100. Unless you're doing, cross-gully shooting. In that case, you're not stalking anymore, you're glassing. At 100 metres, the 300 Win Mag is pushing at 3,865 joules. At 200 metres, it's 3,115 joules. And at 300 metres, it's 2486 joules. So obviously it kicks the shit out of all the rest of the 30 caliber bullets we've got here, and well and truly enough to kill a Sambar deer, which is why it's used a lot. Now, interestingly, I've compared this with 7 Rem Mag, because obviously, if you don't know what 7 Rem Mag is, it's the same cart case, which is a 375 H&H. Instead of being neck down to 300, it's neck down to 7mm. Now, firing a 150 grain as well, what the 7mm Rem Mag can do is, at 100 metres, it's about 100 joules less. So it's got 3749 or 3750 joules at 100 metres, whereas the 300 Win Mag has 3865. So about 100 joules off there. But then once we get to 200 metres, this is where 7 Rem Mag really stretches his legs out. As I said before, 300 Win Mag is doing 3115. The 7 Rem Mag is doing 3233. And then once we get to 300 metres, the 300 Win Mag has dropped off to 2480, and the 7mm Rem Mag is still sitting at 2700, or nearly 2780. That's what I was talking about before with projectile size versus velocity. The projectile size of the 300 Win Mag, although this calculation is done off a 150 grain projectile, it's thinner. It's not as wide. And obviously, the wider the bullet, the more drag it's going to hit when it hits air density, like that. So the 300 Win Mag is dropping off a lot quicker than the 7mm. And 7mm is going a lot flatter trajectory and also keeping its joules for hitting power. So if I was to go between those two, I would probably actually go 7mm Rem Mag over 300 Win Mag. But that is neither here nor there because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about 30 calibers. So there you go. There's a comparison of these most common 30 caliber bullets. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate in the comments for what I've said about different calibers. Essentially, they are all capable of doing what you want them to do if you hunt with them correctly. Every single one of those rounds can kill a deer under 100 meters. Some of these rounds cannot kill a deer over 100 meters. So if you've got a 7.62 by 39, you're not going to be doing cross-gully shooting at 500 meters. And if you do, you're a fucking idiot. Likewise, if you're using 3 Win Mag and you're hunting, and your hunting style leads you to be having encounters at 50 meters, then you're lugging a heavy piece of shit for no fucking reason. You probably could be using a 30-30 or a 308. So take all these things into consideration when you talk about ammunition, you talk about hunting and their application, and don't be the fuckwit that's at the gun shop, going, oh, you can't use 30-30 Winchester to kill a deer, you have to use 300 Win Mag, it's the minimum size you should ever use. Because you're a fucking idiot. If you honestly believe that, you're a dumb cunt. So hopefully you've got something out of this. Hopefully I've informed. Hopefully I've answered the original question, which was which 30 caliber bullet is the best, which I'm not even going to give my opinion on. You know what I hunt with, so you probably know what I've picked. If you've liked this style of content when I'm going a little bit nerdy in ballistics and all that sort of stuff, and you want a comparison done of other common types, like maybe you want the best 6.5, or maybe you want the best best caliber in the fucking .2 range or whatever, hit in the comments, I'll get around to it and I'll see what I can come up with. And if you didn't enjoy it, then fuck you. Anyway, catch you later. Hooroo.